Al, we watched a very serious film this week
We did.
that we laughed a lot through.
We laughed so much. Not because of the content, really. I mean, some of the content, but like, it's a very sad movie.
It is a sad movie. It's also sad other forms of media, but yes. We just laughed a lot through it.
There was one point in time that we'll talk about that I swear I couldn't breathe.
It's
I
true.
could not breathe.
You were out of control. I was like, oh God, is that all going to be okay?
Am I gonna have to pause this so that she can actually not die? We'll talk about that more in a little bit.
We will talk about that, yeah. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Season Later Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about anime, video games, and manga. Hello, I am Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Ladium.
Hello.
And we're here to talk to you about a piece of media that we've already talked about before.
On episode 121.
121, back in April of last year.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed the I Want to Eat Your Pancreas light novel.
And the manga.
And the manga.
Now we're going to talk about something else.
So we discussed how the two were different and everything, how they were similar, how, the different mediums told that story in various different ways. And now we have a third medium to look at.
Eventually we'll get a fourth.
Well, it's the same medium.
If sort
Film
of,
is film.
but with
Movies are
people.
movies. Yeah.
But with people.
We watched the anime film,
Mm-hmm.
which recently just came out on home video over here.
Did we do our introduction?
Yes.
Like with us?
Yes.
Okay. I don't remember saying hi.
Al clearly just does not pay attention when we are recording.
I am kind of in a weird... Anyway, continue.
Al's very awake.
That's the real problem here, is that I'm very much not awake. Anyway, continue. We watched the animated film.
We did watch the animated film. And during that episode, we talked about, which scenes in particular we were looking forward to watching it animated or in live action, depending on which version we got to watch. And also, certain scenes due to the dub cast that we had known at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing, how they were going to pull those off and everything.
Yeah, I remember specifically saying, I cannot wait to see this one scene with Robbie Damon because I think he will nail it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, is he going to nail it? Is he going to do it?
Is he going to do it?
Is he going to do it? Is he going to do
Is he going to do it?
It's also interesting how they pull off the whole name thing in here, but we'll talk about that too.
Right. I think that's maybe this is the medium that is the easiest to pull that off with.
I agree.
Because you don't really necessarily have to name characters the entire time, and they really don't do a whole lot of character naming throughout this.
Nope.
Considering it's just a lot of conversational language, so you don't really necessarily need names for that. So they're able to kind of get away with it for the most part, except for one specific scene, which is really good.
Oh my god. Wow. I promise I won't. Okay, I can't make that promise. I'll do my best not to die from laughing.
We'll see about that.
We'll see. So I mean, we have talked about the story a bit.
Yes.
And it's still generally the same here that there is a high school boy who goes to the hospital to get stitches removed and finds a book, and he really
the
likes
weirdest hospital.
The weirdest hospital. It's like a DMV.
There's a ticketing system, and you have to wait till your number's called. It's like, what is happening?
Patient 54, go to booth. Da, 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 da. And he's like, oh, that's mine. I have to go. I'm like, what?
That's my ticket.
What
I gotta get my license renewed.
And also these stitches out of my body. God, it's so weird. But that's how it starts. I mean, sort of. I think it starts with a cut-in of hey, this is the story. This is what's gonna happen. And then we end up getting that scene. And
it starts with the funeral.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, is it starts with
Yeah.
the funeral, and so it's like she's going to die, here's the story of it.
Mm-hmm.
um just very nonchalant. It's like, yeah, I'm dying, that's my book, thank you, can I have it back? He's like, I like reading.
I like books.
I didn't expect him to be as tall as he is in the animated version. Like, I guess I never really expected, like, I never pictured him as a tall person.
I think the manga kind of doesn't give you the perspective of that really.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think this being animated and everything kind of opens it to a little bit wider view of like, oh well, there's definitely a different height difference here, but also just that could just be a fact of that the both versions were kind of being worked on at the same time ish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because the manga began serialization in August of 2016, and then wrapped up in May of 2017. But the anime film specifically was announced in August of 2017. So could also just be a thing of like, hey, the anime wants to do a little bit something different than what the manga has done. So it's their own version of it. So you can kind of play with character heights and all that sort of stuff in that way. So
And give them M's in their hair.
give them weird M haircuts.
The two main characters have M's in their hair. Slightly different M's, but M's nonetheless.
And they aren't defined by M names.
No. Like, Loki has an M on his head, but he's got an M in his name, apparently, according to the vet.
He really liked the Majin Buu saga of Dragon Ball Z, so he decided to get an M in his head.
Oh my god, get out. Don't slander my cat this way. He has bad
Majin
taste.
Loki.
He has bad taste in a lot of things, but it's not that.
You don't know that.
Loki, do you have good taste in things, honey?
No.
He's like, what if I just lick myself?
That's his answer.
But yeah, so I didn't expect that, and the M haircut's pretty weird. Like, that's one of the first things you noticed, I think, was the haircut. And then I pointed out that she also has an M, and they're the only two that have the M. So that's interesting. The M duo.
So it's not good. Not good haircuts.
No, it's not great.
I would not wear that haircut.
I also would not wear that haircut. So yeah, they have that whole like opening scene. Then they have like them working in the library together, and she's just yelling the whole time, basically.
Hey, how's it going? We gotta do this stuff, right?
And I'm just like, oh my god, it's a library. And like he waits until like one scene later where he's like, this is a library, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, dude, she's been yelling at you this whole time. Why didn't you tell her to be quiet ages ago? Crazy pants. And there's the whole thing of like, she doesn't want to learn how to be a library assistant. He's like, yeah, you got to learn all the call numbers. And she's like, what?
There's more to this job than just getting the books
and chatting with you.
Yep. Me specifically.
You, yes. I mean, out of the two of us, I'm the one who actually works in a library. Although I can't say that my library is quiet.
I would be her, just like show and be like, wait, I have to do all this other stuff? What?
I mean, I do love books.
You do?
Maybe not as creepy as he is about it, though. I hope I'm not as creepy as he is about it.
You're not just sitting all day or going around reading.
I mean, I do read a lot, but
you also interact with people.
Okay, yeah, fair. Like, I don't make up scenarios with like what people think about me. I mean, okay, yes, I do, but not like
all the time.
Not like he does.
Right.
Like, I have anxiety thoughts of like, this person hates me. They definitely hate me, but like, he just makes up scenarios about like, this is what they think about me, and I'm like, buddy, that's not normal. You should probably see a doctor or something.
Or something.
But I will say that I was legit juggling reading 2 different books today at work. So If that tells you anything. Not actually juggling. It was like when I would read
Oh,
like this book and then an hour, I'd read this book and then I'd read this for an hour.
shame.
I know. One thing that's like not story related that I want to talk about is the art.
Mm-hmm.
I actually liked it. I wasn't sure because like I had not seen a whole lot of it before we watched the movie.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know, what's this art gonna look like? And then there have been things that like I don't love the art, but I really like the story, like 5 centimeters per second. Like I don't love the art on that, but the story's great. But the art was really good on this, other than the M haircuts.
I thought it was all right. I think at times it looked a little plain.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like the quality of it wasn't as like, I guess, popping off the screen as you would kind of expect from a film.
Yeah.
Per se, but
it wasn't hideous to look at either.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't anything like that. Like it was not like anything you'd look at and be like, "Oh, this looks bad" or anything like that. So, like at best, I would say it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like I didn't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
There were scenes that were definitely pretty, and then there were scenes I was just like, "All right, cool."
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get this story of unusual friendship.
Yes.
Where she
and a lot of the story is basically the same as the novel and manga. Like there isn't really too many differences seen throughout. Like they will kind of sometimes little like mix around certain elements of scenes in different ways, but for the most part, there really isn't anything like huge cut from the film. There's not really anything like added or anything like like that. It's basically a condensed down version of the main overall story into an hour and 40 minutes basically.
Yeah, I mean, there's one scene in the hotel room that was like, this is a weird way that they're doing it, but like
it wrapped back around.
It did, because I was gonna be real mad if they left it out, because it's a very important part.
I would say the one big difference is how subtle they are with like the actual twist reveal.
Yes, that's something we talked about last night when I was recovering from watching this.
Because so like obviously if you have not seen or read or watched the film, spoiler also, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, go at least read something or watch the movie or something before you,
or go listen to our past episode about this.
Yeah, you could do that,
where we go more in depth with the story. One of the through lines you hear throughout like the story in the manga is that, like, oh, there's been a rash of serial stabbings essentially, and you kind of like you'll see it pop up on young women, and you see it pop up every now and then. Like I think it comes up like a few times throughout the story and then the manga.
I can think of at least twice. Once is like his mom's watching the news, and then the second one is that they hear about it at the hotel.
So you get that same scene with his mom like hearing it on the TV, and it's very much just like in passing in the film, where it's
very
like,
much in the background.
Oh, this is something that's happened on the news today, and now for the weather. Like it does not feel important in any sense of the imagination, because it just feels like, oh, it's just random news,
right,
that you would hear in passing in general,
and like his mom just watching the news.
Yeah, exactly. And then they don't ever really bring it up again. So like you just like kind of just it's gone, and then once the actual twist happens, it's like it's a little bit more shocking in that aspect, because you really would not see it coming.
No,
unlike the other versions of the story would kind of be a little bit of a tell for you, where this is just like, well, you hear it once very briefly in the first 20-30 minutes of the film, and
it's very much
here
in
it
the
is at the
background.
end. Yeah, so I think like if you were coming to this for the first time, watching this instead of reading the novel or the manga, like this twist would be incredibly shocking.
Yeah.
Because of all that.
Yeah,
like all
absolutely.
those factors. So like I think does this in fact make it the best version to see first because of how shocking that twist would be?
Yes. I can agree with that.
Because if you want that to come out of nowhere, this is the best way to do it. And I think it works much better than just like hearing it kind of pop up. Because if you heard it pop up again like another time, you would probably instantly be like, that's strange. Why would they bring that up again? Like there'd be no reason to have just like some other people talk about this if it's not going to come up again.
Yeah, I mean, like I've mentioned it multiple times when we've been talking, but like this is one of the best examples of like Chekhov's gun that I've ever seen in my life.
Mhm.
That it's like you can't just like put it out there and not use it. Like it's gonna come up in the story somewhere, but like the way that it's done in the film is just so subtle that like it's like the tiniest Chekhov's gun, but has like a giant bullet in it.
Right, because like if you like you said, if in the novel like they have if you're writing that down specifically, that's going to mean something later on,
Mhm.
most likely. Like that's not just going to be incidental dialogue. And in the case of the manga as well.
Mhm.
Like you're not going to point that out unless it's going to mean something later on. Like obviously you can, but
But why would you?
yeah, but why would you? Why would you? Especially with the manga version specifically, why would you waste time doing that specific scene
Mm-hmm.
where they say that if it's not going to mean something later?
Right. And also like, if there's no like real resolution of it, why would you even put it in there?
Yeah. So with the way the film does it, it feels like it's just incidental dialogue.
It feels like a throwaway.
It feels like a throwaway, and then it just wraps back around later on in a way that you're just like, oh.
It really wasn't. I wasn't expecting it to be done like that, but I think that you're right that this would be the best version to watch first because it would just hit you out of nowhere.
It would punch you in the gut because you'd be like, you would never expect it.
Yeah. And I think that's part of why it wasn't as emotional of like a thing for me this time.
Because this is the third time you're experiencing
the
the story.
Third time I've experienced the story.
Yeah.
And like I got emotional the first time. I think I read the book first.
Yes.
I did like got emotional for that, but like I feel like this is the most like masterful way that they've pulled it off so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really a really clever and well done way to do that kind of twist.
Mm-hmm.
The news report about the the murder though was really weird. Like we were talking about that, like how this is essentially like giving you an info dump as a news report, but like
it's so detailed.
It's very detailed, especially because it's like 5 or 6 hours after it happened. They're like, oh, well, she was murdered by a knife. It got her in the abdomen and everything. She was already bleeding so much when they found her, and then they tried to get her to the hospital, but she died on the way. Like,
also, this is who she is.
Also, this is who she is, her age and everything, where she went to school.
Here's a picture of her.
And a picture of her. Like, if this was an actual like murder investigation, they would never, the police especially would never release that kind of information before, obviously,
they've even finished the investigation.
Contacted next of kin.
Yeah.
And family.
Yeah.
And gotten the okay to release information or anything. Like, you would never, it would just be, hey, a young woman was found stabbed in a street. She died on the way to the hospital. Police are still investigating the matter. If you have any, and they found the culprit who did it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even release the culprit's name.
No,
at this point, probably.
And I mean, like,
which this doesn't even do either.
No, but I think that like there was so much detail in this news report, and I'm like, that would never happen ever.
No, like it was like obviously you have to do it because of just like the way
you have to.
He finds out.
Yeah.
But it just felt like such a strange like addition of like, here's this big old info dump in a way that would never happen.
Like, I don't know that I've ever read a news story where it's like so and so was murdered and this is the method of how they were killed. Like specifically they were either shot or stabbed in this section and it took this long for them to die and they were killed immediately on this section of the road. It's like it's a lot of detail.
It's really messed up.
Yeah, it's really yeah.
But I guess if you're wanting to get across that this is the twist,
yeah,
you have to get that detail because you haven't really mentioned it prior to this.
Right. And I mean, I think they do bring up like, oh, this has been like a serial stabbing thing. Mm-hmm. And did they even say that he was caught?
Yeah, they said like the culprit got away, but it was found later and confessed to everything.
Okay.
So yeah, like I guess like in retrospect, yes, it makes sense why they would do such a huge info dump because obviously this hasn't really been telegraphed and you kind of have to fill people in. But as like it being an actual news report, it's very bizarre.
Yeah, that would not happen.
So yeah. The other big thing about this film, which we were going to talk about, that caused Al to nearly die.
I nearly died.
There is a scene on the train when they're going to do their overnight vacation type dealio. And this is where she's writing in the journal and talks about like she's writing his name down, and he's like, I don't feel comfortable with you writing my name in there. And she's like, whatever, I'll do it anyways. And like, oh, by the way, I know your last name, but what's your first name? And in my mind, I was, because this is a common comedy trope.
Yes, it is.
Where like if you want to not name something, or like you're trying to like get around cursing or something like that, you would be like, oh, my name is, and then you would cut to like something making another noise,
some sound effect,
or like a car going by, or in this case a train going by.
Yep.
So in my mind I was thinking like, oh, here's what would be funny if they did. He goes, oh, my name is, and he just go as the train goes by. And then we get to where it is, and he goes, oh, well, my name is, and then it cuts and it goes, I was like, oh my God, they actually did it.
His name is Train Noises.
Which led to me just be like, he's like, oh, by the way, my name is I genuinely cannot believe that's how they pulled that off, because I was like, that's a comedy trope. They would not put this in a very serious drama. And then they did. They did.
Oh, they absolutely did.
I was like, wow.
His name is Choo Choo.
This is my mother. And here is my father.
We are a family of train enthusiasts. Oh my God.
And then later when you see like that she's like scribbled out his name, it's just like, oh, she was trying to make a train noise there.
Yeah, she was trying to figure out how to make it.
And she just couldn't figure it out, she just scribbled it out.
She's like, oh God, how do you make this train sound?
I'll come back to it later.
It's a scribble. That's similar, right?
That was.
I legit couldn't breathe for a second.
That might have been the hardest I've ever heard you laugh.
I legit could not breathe. I was like gasping, trying to get air into my body while remaining laughing like a. It was great. Oh man, I
wasn't expecting that to go over so well.
I just seriously lost it. I don't even know how to explain it. It was just super funny to me. And then like, throughout the rest of it, we were just like,
Yeah. Oh, hey.
Speaking of his name that is not Choo Choo related. Oh no! No, you have to edit that out.
Nope.
No. So throughout
Hey, it's me, Choo Choo. I'm a real big fan of Choo Choo Rocket.
Oh man.
Ma'am, how do you write that on the birth certificate? It's HRNN, HRNN.
Her. Just draw a little train next to it. It's fine.
A little smoke coming out of the
smokestack, yeah. Oh my God.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say that in the book and the manga, one of the things that is prevalent throughout is that like he refers to himself as like classmate who I'm getting along with and stuff like that. Like he always like is referring to himself by how other people are thinking about him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really interesting thing that they do in the book and the manga. So I was interested to see like how they would pull that off here. if it wasn't choo choo sounds. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but how they ended up doing it here is that he explains, like, I don't have friends, I don't talk to people, like everything that I think of is like people, like I in my brain, like I know how people are thinking of me, and so I make up scenarios based on that. And he says something to the extent of like classmate that I'm doing this with, or classmate who's like this, and I'm like, okay, so that's how they're going to make that reference of like this is how he thinks of himself.
But interestingly enough, like they bring it up in that one specific scene,
Mm-hmm.
but don't really bring it up after that.
Well, I mean, it would be harder to since
Yeah, but
you're
like
getting the
it's
rest of it from
interesting
his
that
perspective.
they obviously make mention of it to reference that, but then
Mm-hmm.
it's like
It's a
never
nice
again.
nod for like
Mm-hmm.
those who have read the material.
Yeah,
But it seems kind of like a weird like in passing type thing.
right.
Otherwise, but I was like, oh hey, that's it, because that's something that I really find fascinating about this book is how like he keeps referring to himself as that until the very end when you actually find out his name.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Um, it's like Spring. Is that his name?
No, it's
It's a choo choo.
Horn. But yeah, I think that's essentially the implication.
Okay. Um. Yeah, man. Uh. He's a weirdo. That's really all
Yes.
there is to it. He's a weirdo.
Yes.
But she likes him for some reason. He also has a very long butt in this version. Like a very, very unnaturally long butt. It's odd.
Long butt boy.
Something that is worth mentioning is that there is a character that we both know and love. And when he showed up on the screen, we're like, is that Gumboy? Is that Gumboy? Is it Gumboy? And then he's like,
Gumboy!
he's like, oh, how's your relationship with her? And he's like, oh, it's not what you think. He's like, oh, you want a piece of gum? We're just like, yeah, it's Gumboy. He's obviously one of the best characters.
He is.
God, he's so good. I love Gumboy so much. And he gets kicked in the butt. That's my second butt reference in like 2 minutes.
All the butt references.
But yeah, I was super happy that Gumboy made it because I was worried that like they would cut him for like time.
Was the scene with him and his brothers in the other material as well? Or is that something specifically for the anime?
I don't remember it being in anything else.
Because I couldn't either, but also it's like I haven't read that since last year.
I also don't remember the scene in the marketplace being in there.
Where Sakura just kicks this dude straight in the junk.
Yeah, and then somebody's like, oh, he's going to lose both of them there. I was like,
good.
what does that even mean?
She waits till the cops are coming and then just winds up and just field goal kicks him straight in the junk.
Gets him in the nards.
And he just goes down like that. Oh, man.
I mean, like, understandably, he goes down. But
You're not going to recover quickly from that.
I don't know why she waited until the cops were there to do so, but
Me either.
and then ran from the cops. But I don't remember that being in the book or the manga. One thing that was in the book and the manga that was not here is that we didn't get spaghetti or heart plates.
In the weird
Like cake
sweet cafe.
Yeah. Because he ate a lot of spaghetti because he said he couldn't eat so many sweets.
So he just ate a bunch of sweets in this, and there was no spaghetti.
And no heart plates.
Nope.
Like the heart-shaped plates are very...
Just regular old plates.
Lame. Super lame. So those are some things I could think of that are different. Because I don't remember that scene with the nards, and I don't remember the scene with the brothers.
They also slightly changed the post-credit scene as well.
Yes, you are correct.
Or like the epilogue, essentially.
Yes, because they made it so that he didn't make a complete faux pas there. Which, I mean, it was still adorable the way it was pulled off in this and the book, but I think I prefer the book version better. Where he like accidentally lets it slip that like Gumboy totally has a crush on her.
Mm-hmm.
Cause she's like, you only have 2 friends, man. I know who it is. You have 2 friends and I'm one of them. Which that cafe scene with him and is her name Kyoko?
Kyoko.
That cafe scene was weird. The way that it was just placed.
Right, because I think in the manga they are in a table.
And
like,
the pillow slap.
They're set by like a table, like a normal table in a kind of cafe like that where you just sit across from each other.
Mm.
In this he's by like a window table essentially, where it's just like you're sitting looking out through a window.
Yeah.
And like that's where they have this at, and they just like stand and have the conversation. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
And it's not bad or anything. It's just like not what I would have expected. Like that's not the direction I would have gone with that scene.
Well, the one thing that is bad is the pillow slap with his weak face skin.
She slaps him, and this is basically how it sounds when she slaps. Because like, if you're going to slap someone in in the heat of the moment like that, you're gonna hear basically like a, no, that's a bad one. You're gonna hear a, that's also a bad one. You're gonna hear a, like that.
Yeah,
Ow.
it's gonna be a significant slapping sound because she's really mad at him.
But instead, you get possibly the weakest slap that I've ever seen.
The weakest slap. It's like...
And it's also combined with the weakest sounding slap I've ever heard. And it's basically like this.
Yep.
And then his cheek gets red.
His cheek turns red. And
It's like, what are you doing? You and your weak face skin.
Yeah, because he turns red on this and he gets punched in the face once and bleeds and then like stops bleeding all of a sudden.
Which again, it does not make sense for him to bleed after one punch unless like because they don't really show where he's bleeding from.
No.
Like we probably talked about this in the other episode, but the only way he would have been able to bleed from a singular punch is if he gets popped in the nose.
Mm-hmm.
Easy, like obviously that's an easy spot. You get hit in the mouth. Again, easy spot for you to bleed.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that doesn't happen because he's like bleeding from his forehead. You get punched in the forehead, you're not going to bleed unless like you get caught in the eyebrow.
Yeah.
But you'd have to be really accurate and get like your punch square on that eyebrow to cut you, to like split it open to where it would be a very bad cut. And again, that would be a very lucky punch in order to do that. But this is just like a little dribble of blood, and that's it.
Well, it shows like a lot of blood for a minute, and then it's just no blood at all.
Well, it's not even a lot of blood. It's just like he's got some blood coming down his face, but then like it's not much. Like she pulls out like a handkerchief or something to like get it off him to stop the bleeding, and it's like full of more blood than like whatever was on his face. So it's just like
And then she like pulls it up by her chest, and I'm like, ew, no, you're gonna get his blood on your shirt. No.
Blood for blood.
It is awful. But like, yeah, he is
blood
weak.
pack.
He has such weak face skin.
He has a really he got all that tough skin on his butt because it's really long, and then there was none left for his face, so he's got weak face skin.
With the weakest slap in the world. We also get giant fireworks.
Yeah, there's so many fireworks. That town blew their whole firework budget for like 25 years just for this one festival. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. It's like Disney World level fireworks. It might actually outdo Disney World.
It's ridiculous.
It's also alarming how large and close they are.
And then like they pull back and it's like they're not that far away. They're very far away. It's like, what is going on?
It's like, oh god, that'd be terrible.
Did they buy the biggest firework ever?
They also cut out her subplot of being a magician.
That's a shame.
It is a shame.
That is a shame.
But yeah, those fireworks was like, whew. Which that is the one scene where he actually finally figures out how to give a hug. Which is good.
He's not just like sitting there with his arms down like, what do I do here?
Yeah, like she hugs him a few times and he's just got his arms like straight out, like I don't know how to describe it, but they're straight down basically. And
do I hug you back? I don't know. I'm still processing this.
And so he finally returns the hug in the fireworks scene, which is good of him. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I was like, that's significant and something that should be mentioned. one thing that's funny is that Mario Kart's apparently like on a PlayStation now.
Yeah, the Sony PlayStation exclusive Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
Which that scene, man, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like I almost had to tell you to like go forward. I really almost had to. And it was hard reading it in the book, and it was hard seeing the manga. It was harder here.
Mm-hmm.
It was,
which obviously makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was rough, and like I don't know if you got the same level of discomfort with it. It just seemed to go on for a long time.
It lingered.
It did, and it's like,
which I think obviously is the intended effect, because they want to make you feel very uncomfortable while that's happening, and just like making it linger for that long, which makes it like, obviously I think it's like, that's a scene that's probably like maybe 15 seconds.
Yeah.
If that.
But
it feels so much longer.
Yeah, it felt very long. And like, credit to Robbie Damon, like he did a fantastic job in this, and we'll talk more about what he did later. But his like creepy breathing during this made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, and I'm like, dude, you gotta calm down. It's terrifying.
This is some ASMR stream.
I don't think anybody ever wants me to ASMR for them ever. I would be the worst at it.
Can you breathe less into the mic? You're blowing it out. I'm not getting the tinglies. My ears are just hurting.
The tinglies. If I did ASMR, it would just be me laughing hilariously. People like, this is the worst. Why did I pay money for this? Awful. But yeah, that was a very, very hard scene.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I got to laugh before it about the PlayStation Mario Kart though.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was really funny.
It's very blatant.
It's like, that is very clearly Mario Kart. That is not the controller you would play Mario Kart on at all. Ever.
I don't know. It has an X button. Clearly the same.
Oh my god. They're both video games, right?
Yeah.
Right?
They were playing it on the Nintendo.
God. So yeah, I was dreading a little bit that. And it was as bad as I expected. Actually, it's probably worse than I expected it to be. But
yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind, is that if you have previously read the book or the manga and you're like, that was a hard scene,
it's going to be worse.
It's going to be worse here. So just like brace yourself, maybe skip it if you need to.
Yeah.
It can be. And then he just sits on the ground with his wet long butt, and bleeds out of somewhere mysteriously and then stops bleeding.
His butt.
He's bleeding from his butt?
We reported that he has anal bleeding.
Oh my god. He didn't punch him in the butt.
What if he did?
That would be weird.
I'm gonna punch you in the butt.
Which, speaking of that entire like plot with that kid, like he's brought up once in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're like, you deserve better than that weirdo. You should go out with this guy. Which I'm like, how did none of her friends know that she was already going out with him?
They're not smart.
Whatever. And then like they skipped the hints that like there's a thing there, like he didn't have his bookmark go stolen, go missing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then the dude's like, hey,
what are you doing here?
What are you doing? You're coming
and he's
from
like,
our
what
house?
are you doing here?
He's like, I'm leaving. Goodbye.
I'm gonna punch you in the face.
And he gets his umbrella thrown on the ground and then falls on the ground after he gets punched, and he just sits there for a solid like 5 minutes with a wet butt.
I mean, to be fair,
he did get punched in the face.
He got punched in the face. He just went through a terrible situation.
Yeah.
Like his brain's probably all scrambled, and just like he's like, oh, I f***ed up real bad.
Yep.
Things are really bad. So he's probably just like just
books.
there, just like,
Books are better.
Yeah.
Which makes me think of, this is a weird thing to reference right now, but
oh boy.
there is a song in Frozen that Kristoff sings. It's like reindeer are better than people.
Do you want to build a snowman?
No, it's
Let it go.
reindeer are better than people. And so like my thought when I was saying like I should have stuck to books is he's just like books are better than people.
Like we're going to edit that out because Disney's going to come copyright strike us.
That wasn't even the actual tune, so we're good.
We're going to be absorbed by Disney Plus.
Oh God, no! Please don't.
We're going to get put in the vault.
Eat the rich. Destroy monopolies.
Next to Walt's head. The mouse is going to come out smoking a cigarette and be like, kid's going to get to work.
Oh my God. Wait, are we working with Walt's head?
Get to work, kids. The vault's not going to clean itself.
Oh, okay. We got to clean the vault with Walt's head.
That's what the newbies do here.
So we have
I've been here for 100 years.
They won't let me out because of copyright.
They won't let me out because they keep changing the copyright laws. That's right, kids. It's me, Steamboat Willie.
Well, now we're really going to get Disney strikes.
Come at me, bro.
Oh my God, nice. But yeah, so books are better than people. But this is all resolved very quickly,
mm-hmm.
which I guess it is in the book and the manga too. Like she forgives very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I guess he also forgives very quickly, though I don't know that he was. His situation was worse than what she did.
Yeah.
But also he got punched in the face, so like that's kind of a comeuppance on it. But yeah, just sitting in the rain with long butt getting wet.
Long butt man. And
then they have the whole like thing of him like taking clothes from her house, but like they don't reference that she has a brother.
Yeah, I guess they don't.
They don't bring it up that Kyoko like finds out that like he was returning the clothes.
Yeah, that's all skipped over.
And she's like, why are you wearing clothes from her?
Which I guess that like if you're going to like cut out a scene like that seems pretty skippable in terms of just like because it doesn't really add anything to like the main plot as a whole. All that scene would do is like, oh, Kyoko's mad at him again.
Yeah, it would have been easy to pull it off with like the hotel. Jesus Christ, the hospital scene, which I think is where it happens in the first place.
Yeah.
Like it would have been really easy to incorporate it if they wanted to, but I can understand why they didn't.
Yeah. They were 15 minutes away from being 2 hours. They probably didn't need to extend it that far. So
that's fine. They just could have made a better slap or something, you know.
So like obviously there's gonna be some things cut for time and like stuff like that, but like nothing is super egregious. Like this isn't like the film adaptation of A Silent Voice where there's huge plot lines that are just completely cut.
Yeah.
Because that's a
much
longer manga than this is, obviously, or much longer story in general than what this is. But again, for the most part, it just seems like if there is anything cut, it's mostly just like, hey, we can kind of trim this off for time and everything because it's not super essential.
I love that we got an extra scene with Gumboy though, like in exchange. I was like, "Yay, Gumboy!"
That's a good exchange.
I agree. I am happy with that exchange. Is there anything else that I feel like I just really, really need to? Uniqlo. They go to Uniqlo.
Kind of.
Oh no, it's definitely Uniqlo.
They don't show logos.
They don't show logos, but it's Uniqlo. I know what those stores look like. That's
which obviously is how they're going to get away with using it, but not being like, hey, we're going to pay you for logos and all that stuff.
Were the subs fan subs or were they okay?
Evident by the more stern language in some aspects.
Oh right. That's true. There were some F-bombs dropped in situations. I was like, whoa. That's aggressive. But they did go to Uniqlo, which I guess the thing that there are a few things that someone talk about. I want to talk about the hotel scene though, and like how they changed that.
Yeah,
because I was very concerned at first. Because
but I think it totally works.
It does once I figured out what they were doing.
Yeah,
but like how it works in the book and the manga is that she's like, I'm gonna go take a bath, don't peek on me. And then like in the middle of it, she's like, oh, by the way, can you like get my face wash or whatever? Like it's in my bag. And he goes and opens the bag to get the face wash and sees like all the medicine that she has to take.
Mm-hmm.
And it like hits him like, oh God, this is real. She's actually sick. Um, and he like lays down on the bed and falls asleep for a bit because he's just like in utter shock. Um, and then like they wake up and they play the Truth or Dare weird card version. Um, but they did it slightly different in this, and I originally thought that they were just gonna cut it because she's like, "Hey, can you get my face wash?" She opens, like then you see like him put the face wash over by the door,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just cuts.
Well, he puts it by the door, and there's like a lingering shot of him just like leaning on the door, and it's like something's very wrong with him.
Yeah,
Like he's in like a state of shock or something, but they don't really tell you about it.
yeah.
So I think that totally works. But then like obviously they go through the whole Truth or Dare game, and then like by the end of it, they wrap back around by showing like what he was looking at in the bag, and it's just like the whole, like you said, the gambit of her medication and everything.
Was that during the part where she says like, what would you say if I said I was like scared to die? Is that when they did the flashback or?
It's around that time. I don't know if it's specifically that question, but like it's at the end of it. It's just basically.
Yeah, I mean, like it shows him looking through the bag and seeing like the syringes and the medicines and all, and he's just like, ooh. So I'm glad that they did handle it because I was initially worried, like, oh God, they're just gonna ignore that. That's not cool.
That would be a big thing for them to ignore, I think.
It would be because that's like his first realization of like, oh, this is real. Because he asked her a few times, like before that, like, are you really dying? And she's like, yep, really am. And so this is like his first time in every medium that he realized like, oh, this is real. And so it's a very significant part for him and also for their relationship.
Because I think here you can kind of make it so like at first it's just like him just being weird about being around a girl in a shower,
right,
and just feeling like nervous and anxious about that. But then you get the context later on. It's just like, oh, that's why he was so just like freaked out at the time. Like he saw all that, and it's just like, how do I handle this? I don't know how to handle this.
Well, and then I ruined the moment because like they did the like princess carry, and then like it shows them like in the same bed, like facing away from each other, and I had to I said leave her. I ruined everything.
No, I think we ruined a lot of this movie by doing stuff like that.
I mean, sometimes we got to do things to keep our sanity.
I mean, she got carried over to the bed and then T-posed on the bed.
She did T-pose for dominance.
T-pose for dominance.
And she has to prove dominance over
over.
There you go. God, with his long button, M hair.
Travesty.
He does get better hair later.
He does. It just takes him like 2 years or a year.
I think it's a year.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that definitely happens, and as I mentioned before, like he doesn't spill the beans accidentally that Gumboy has a crush on Kyoko. She's just like, yeah, we might go out, but like after entrance exams,
yeah.
And he's like, oh, maybe you should use that as a way to make him study. So I guess that brings us to I want us to talk about Robbie Damon and the scene that I was like, I need to hear what Robbie Damon does with this scene.
Yeah.
First off, it's awkward because like they're sitting like catty cornered from each other on at the table, like.
So it's a table, obviously, like it's a kitchen table.
Yeah.
There are 4 chairs, 2 on each side.
Yes.
He is on like the left chair on his side. She is on the left chair on her side. So they are diagonal to each other.
It's weird.
It's very weird.
And I'm like, why are you guys like this? It's very odd. But yeah, the whole like, for once you called him blatantly a coward, which is funny, but he goes in for living with dying, and gets the book. He gets to read through it. And then eventually like gets the back part of it where which the way that they handle this is interesting. It's like she's in a weird like pastel world with like Saturn in the back, like little cartoony planets,
like a dream world.
and she's like talking it like basically reading the pages about like what their relationship was and how she felt and all that. And in every version of it, he basically says like, "Is it okay if I cry now?" And so I was like, I need to hear Robbie Damon do this. And I think I said that in that episode. And I'm pretty sure
I remember you saying that specifically.
It hurt. I didn't cry.
You were still trying to get your airbag from nearly dying.
From nearly dying, and also realizing that they're awkward and sitting diagonally from each other. But the way that he is able to voice this is interesting and different from many times that I've heard like people crying in animation or even acting in general. Is that usually it's like a very calculated, like, I'm going to cry now type thing.
Right.
His still sounds very like strained and like tight. Like he's trying not to still, but it's just like gotta come out whether you want it to or not. So I think he really nailed it because it's like tight, anxious, introverted crying. But at the same time, like he's still like wailing on a table.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you hear very often. You don't usually hear that like strangled type of crying from people in animation. And I imagine that that's very, very hard to do.
Yeah.
Like on cue. Because I've done it like in real life, but I don't know that I could do it if somebody's like, hey,
do this now,
cry right now, but it has to sound strained.
Right.
I'd be like, ah.
How do I do this?
But he did a good job. I was proud of him. It was everything I wanted it to be. Actually, it was better than what I wanted it to be. Like, it solidified that, like, he is a very talented man. I'm proud of you, buddy. You're not ever going to hear this, but I'm proud of you anyway. I don't know. Sean Chiplock like replied to one of my tweets once. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Lotus Juice liked one of my tweets before too.
Yeah.
Yay.
Look at you.
I know. So maybe if I just tell Robbie Damon that he did a really good job in this, he'll be like, why are you watching this now? But also, sure, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Sure, thank you. Robbie Damon, your role as Ha Ha was fantastic. I laughed until I cried and also almost died from not being able to breathe.
Yep.
But not because of your acting, I promise. So I don't know if you got the same sense of the scene that I did.
I probably did not pick up on the intricate details of that like you did, but I still thought it was good.
Yeah.
So.
Grieving.
Just it was still awkward with the way they were sitting.
It was so awkward. But one thing that I can say, and I can say this from experience, and it's kind of an odd thing to bring up on a podcast like this, but when you've been holding that kind of thing in for a while and like not really accepting a death of someone that you care about,
right?
Once it finally comes out, like it sounds like that. Like it's a painful thing to actually experience physically. And like you're still trying to hold back on it because you want to keep some sense of control over yourself. And I can I would assume that this kid has some version of like social anxiety as well, or some version of anxiety in general.
Yeah.
So that would also be a thing of like, not only is he like finally letting it go, but he's letting it go in front of a person he doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be a lot to have happen at the time. And man, it's hard. Like, I don't remember. It was a few weeks ago at this point that I was just like, I finally cried for like 2 hours thinking about something. And I'm like, wow, that hurt, but I needed it. That was
Mm-hmm.
good.
I will say that, like, I'm glad that the way they animated him crying was not just like pretty anime crying, essentially. Like, it's pretty ugly crying.
No, he's ugly crying, which
Yeah.
is good because
Yeah.
like he needed to ugly cry that out. That was
Mhm.
not. I was also worried about that, honestly.
Yeah.
That it was just gonna be like beautiful anime crying like normal. But they didn't do that. Like he makes like the awful faces and everything. It's great.
He looks like Joseph Joestar when he cried.
Oh no.
I mean, not wrong.
You're not wrong.
But also,
It wasn't a reference I was expecting to hear. But yeah, I think that he really, really nailed it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that is to say, like, the whole voice cast did a really good job on this.
It's a really good dub.
Yeah, it's a really, really good dub. One of them you said is like somebody you wouldn't expect. Oh, it's Gumboy. Right?
Yeah, because he voices another character in a different thing that's the complete opposite of what like Gumboy would be in terms of characters.
Mm-hmm.
So just like it's just those are two completely different like odds ends of the spectrum, I would say. So
He has
it's just
range.
interesting. Yeah, totally. Her dad's Dio.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't
But
know
you
that.
you never hear him, so I think you hear him like once maybe in the entire film.
Wow.
He was going, hey.
It was probably during the scene where you find out that she died.
That would make sense.
Because I think that's the only one that has both of his parents. Because his mom talks a few times, especially at the time where she's like, yeah, I knew you've been lying. Like, I'm your mom. I'm not an idiot. Yeah, I don't remember his dad. This also has music from the band that did the opening, right? Am I saying this right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What did you say? You just said the opening.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, was it the opening or was it?
I don't remember if it was the opening or ending.
I think
it's one of the two.
I think it's the opening.
It might be the opening.
Is it Watakoi? Is that how it's pronounced? Watakoi? I don't remember.
Basically, yeah.
You've said it before, but
Watakoi.
Watakoi.
Watakoi!
A fish! You're a good fish!
God. So yeah, that band is Sumika. They do the theme song. They do like an insert song, I think, as well, and then the ending song.
With the guitar shredding.
Yeah, they also had like the band had various voice roles in the Japanese dub of the film. So.
Oh, did they?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I wonder who they played.
I think it's probably just like
bit parts. I hope that they were the guys who got destroyed in the beginning. That would have been funny. But they're really good. I didn't like really love the ending song. The guitar solo was really funny to me. Especially because we had a weird situation where like the credits turned gray for us for a while.
Because I skipped ahead.
Yeah, and then
started artifacting.
It started artifacting, and then like the guitar solo hit, and it just like never went in black again. And it's like, okay, wow, guitar solo saved the world.
It's true.
But the first song, like the opening song, is really, really good. I liked it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's rad. Is there anything I'm missing? Am I missing anything about this?
I don't think so. I think basically that kind of covers the entirety of the story in the film.
Yeah, we have.
That's like stuff that we've already talked about. So
right, we have like her very blatantly spelling out the whole like your name is Spring and I'm Sakura, and like that's when the cherry blossoms bloom, and I only bloom for when I'm supposed to, like the cherry blossoms. And I'm like, yeah, got that. Thank you. um, but yeah, it God, I still can't believe how hard I laughed at the freaking train scene.
It's good.
I don't think I've laughed like that in a long, long time.
I would doubt it.
I really don't think I have. Like, I honestly wish that we had recorded that so I could actually hear what I sound like when I'm just like
It was ridiculous.
dying of laughing. You're probably the only person that's heard it like that before.
Yeah.
Yay! Good on you.
Yay.
Yay.
So yeah, I think that's basically all there is to say about the I Want to Eat Your Pancreas film. If you have watched or if you've read the novel or the manga or both, it's a great companion piece to both of those. A great avenue of the story and everything. If this would be somehow your first time going to either of these, I think you should watch the film first.
Yeah. Which, if you're listening this far into it, then like you've already
Whoops.
spoil it for yourself. But like,
Yeah.
you should definitely watch the film first.
Or if you have someone ask you about it,
Yeah.
tell them to watch the film first.
Yeah. It's just good life advice.
Sometimes.
For this movie in particular.
Okay, yes. So yeah, that's going to wrap this episode up then. If you would like more from us, go to seasoncheckup.com or sec.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Season Checkup and Jared Now Watch. You can find columns reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns reviews. You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA, where you can buy us a slice of pizza and get access to cool, fun things like unedited podcasts that go up early, or just some random bonus episodes that we do on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Fun stuff.
Yay!
Next week we will be talking about something, I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't
The
thought
first episode of February.
Oh my god, already?
Yep.
Jeez Louise.
Jeez Louise. We'll figure something out and we'll come back and talk about it, and Al will hopefully not die of laughter.
I mean, at least it was laughter and not something terrible.
It's true.